Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in again to Cash Convos with Laideen. Today I'm here with the beautiful Natasha Helwig, another one of my amazing clients, and I just can't wait for you guys to meet her and to know all about her story and, you know, just all the goodness that she's about. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the great intro.
Yes. Well, you know, I have to because I love it. I love coming here. I love the conversations that we have. And so I was like, okay, honestly, we need to capture these on camera so that others can hear the great things that we talk about, that it's always private between us, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I love coming to your space because, like, you make me feel so at home. You're so hospitable. You take good care of me. And just this space, like, with the view and everything, I just love it. I love coming here. So thank you for having us here today and inviting us into your home to kind of discuss your story.
Oh gosh. Well, where would you like me to start?
Well, just tell us a little bit about what you do because it's really interesting. So I'd love to, you know, for you to share.
Okay, so I work in two different worlds, as you know. So in my 9 to 5, how I actually grind and make money is as a startup consultant, and I mainly work with realtors who want to start their own brokerages, help them set up their systems, operations, CRM, all that stuff, and we'll contract and work with them for anywhere from 6 months to a year, and some of them will keep me on forever if that's what they feel like. And then I have this whole other side of me that's into wellness and self-love, and I've been specifically working with Black women, focused on facilitating healing activities and self-work and just how to set boundaries and love on you and recognize toxic relationships, whatever, all the things that we kind of struggle with or we know we need to work on, but we throw away in the background. I want to hold women's hands through that process and say, all right, let's get this done. So I guess in both sides, I'm focused on growth and system building and implementing systems in your life, whether that's life, love, or business.
Right.
Yeah. So I've been doing that for the last almost 10 years now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I even, going back to how we met, I remember being on a panel with you.
Yeah.
And I know, right? Going back to all the, all those years ago, being on a panel where you did speak about, emotional well-being and healing. And even before you became my client, we spoke a lot about even my own circumstance where I was at the time, just coming out of a really turbulent marriage and just being in a place of brokenness. And you were really instrumental in helping me get over certain hurdles there. And it was just awesome to be able to speak with you. So I think that the work that you're doing is so important on that front.
I was thinking about that this morning because I was I remember reaching out to you for myself, just was okay, I'm, transitioning into eventually being self-employed because I was still working for someone. And so I need this help. But then we had the exchange, we ended up having this exchange of you helping me with finances and then me being oh, here's some advice that I think you could use based on what was happening in your life.
Absolutely.
So I'm grateful for those, that reciprocity.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important as women to be able to support one another and, the gifts that I have within me to help you and you have your gifting that can help me as well. Yeah. And that's really what community is about and how we build and just support one another, right? Yeah. And since then we've come so far, both of us. So,
I know.
It's just that's what it's all about. It's about building up and nurturing one another and just being there for guidance and support, whether finances, emotionally, on every front, right? So, so thankful that we crossed paths. Yeah. And since then, you've been able to do such amazing things. So what I really like is that you're doing two different things, but you I just want to make it very clear to everybody that when Natasha's talking about her 9 to 5, that is also her business as well. Yeah. So you're an entrepreneur, basically a serial entrepreneur. You have two different businesses that you are managing. And maybe speak to individuals who may have two different callings or interested or passionate about two separate things and kind of struggling with, should I do this or should I do that, or do I have to fit in this box, or how do I, go forward?
One, it's funny that you just called me out on saying the 9 to 5, because that in itself has been a huge transition. Having worked so many years for other people, working in a 9 to 5, I'm still in this place where I'm trying to shift my mind around saying things like, I'm always referring to my clients as my boss. I a lot of times I catch myself saying to a friend, I got to get this done for my boss, and then he'll be like, you mean your clients? And so learning to change the language, learning to see myself as an entrepreneur in certain spaces, where the Broken Heels women's work, that was always a creative project that I started and was always the lead in. I easily can see that as entrepreneurial and see those women as my clients. But with the startup work, I was working in the field. I was working in real estate as an administrator, then turned into management and leadership, and then stepped away and said, I could do this for a lot of people and make more money. So why not shift it towards consulting? And in that shift, it can really become easy to all of a sudden end up being an administrator for now a bunch of people versus continuing to empower yourself to say, no, this is my business. These are things I'm going to do. And this is how I need to position myself when I approach these companies, so that I am still remaining seen as a leader and as their consultant.
Yes.
So just that, pointing out that, I'm still trying to get away from saying this 9 to 5, these bosses, when none of them are my bosses.
Yeah.
And then in regards to just managing the two worlds, that I'm in a lucky space where they kind of mirror each other a little bit. The work mirrors itself, because in both spaces, I'm doing like client relations. In both spaces, I'm following up with people. I'm managing, whether it's an individual person and their self-care or a person and their business. It may be two different elements, but there's still that vibe of managing and holding people accountable. So I schedule out my days where I have specific days for Broken Heels and specific days for real estate. Now with the real estate and startup consulting, that work sometimes it's also really easy for them to kind of draw you in. And that comes down to setting the boundaries and saying like, okay, boom, this is the time I have for you. I'm going to be doing, I'm really open with people too. So in the startup world, I can say like, I'm coaching women this evening, so I won't get to look at that until tomorrow. But it's taken a lot of me having to learn to speak up for myself and again, changing my perspective and shift that whole piece of shifting away from these people are my boss. Because again, when you see them as your boss, you also feel like you can't say,
absolutely.
Like you can't say, oh, I need to get this thing done. Or sorry, I'm going to do this later and set deadlines. And now it's like, no, they're paying for your time. They hired you to do something, and you just need to be open and honest about when you can get this completed and how. And I think the other piece that's important is the follow-up. So letting people know, this is where I'm at with this thing. This is what I've done so far. What else do you maybe need? Or I don't have the capacity to do that. So really, it's about boundaries and vocalizing yourself.
And the transparency.
And the transparency.
That's what I'm hearing from you, is that you're comfortable enough in yourself and your abilities and in your offerings to be completely transparent with all parties involved, and with yourself to just know like, this is what I want, this is what I'm going after, and this is what I'm capable of doing. And just kind of sticking with it and going for it. So, and I really love, though, that you didn't box yourself in. You didn't say, like, okay, well, if I'm doing this business, then I can't do
the
this.
other thing.
Yeah.
I think, so the big question I've started to ask myself in the last 2 years was less about, like, what do you want to do and more about what life do you want to live? And then getting to recognizing what my values were. So I know that my top value is freedom and flexibility. So I need to walk in alignment with what's going to give me that freedom and that flexibility. So where before I was working at a desk job 9 to 5, but every day I'd get up and go there. And it wasn't that I didn't like the work. I just didn't like that I had to be sitting at a desk, you know, in front of someone, and maybe they're micromanaging me today, maybe they're not, but it was this idea that I had to ask you for time off, that I needed to explain if I, you know, was not able to come in today. Those things didn't sit well with just me and what my values are. So when I recognized that flexibility and freedom is important for my day-to-day life, then it was like, okay, what type of work can I produce? Leaning into those values.
Right.
So I appreciate that I can work from home. I appreciate that I work as a consultant, and those things allow me to be flexible. They allow me to work on my own time. And again, just to let people know this is when I'm getting something done versus like, no, I'm going in, sitting 9 to 5, and half the time I'm not even doing anything, you know? Versus like you get more out of me when I want to do it, and when I feel like
comfortable. And you feel inspired, and you feel like, you feel productive. Absolutely.
And I get to do that in both places. So, you know, the money is different in both worlds, but it doesn't change the value that I'm receiving, which is that freedom.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And even though the money is different as well in both worlds, but at least you're still also getting fulfillment from the work that you're providing, regardless of what it is, and it's working well with who you are as a person and the way you're delivering your services, right? Yeah. So that's awesome. And I mean, even going through this pandemic, it's changed the way in which the world works, and you know, I'm like
the way everyone has worked.
Is working. I absolutely miss us meeting like this. Like when I used to come out. You know, it seems like years ago now. Well, it literally was years ago. But it seems like years ago now that I actually, you know, would come out and meet with my clients. You know, but with technology, there's really no boundaries, right? Like you even have a lot of your clients are in the States, or
all my clients, like I have maybe 25% of my clients are in Toronto. Everyone else is across the border and the Caribbean. And it's all virtual. Awesome. So exactly as you said, there's no bounds to who you can serve, but the boundary is still important, because I think also people are like, oh, well, she's at home. So I can ask her to do this thing, or I can ask her to meet me, or, you know, can we talk right now? And to still be firm in saying like, well, these are the hours. And
I feel that even, you know, as you speak, I feel that even that you're so clear on your boundaries, because that's what you teach, right? You teach that in the emotional wellness space. You're teaching how to set boundaries and stick to them, and how to, I guess you have to know your worth, even you know, even to be able to do that, you have to have your confidence and all of those things, right? So with a lot of the things that you're teaching, how do you think that relates to or impacts finance? Like, your ability to make money, you know, when you're thinking about women and healing them from maybe traumas or anything like that. How do you think that, what impact do you think that has on their ability to create wealth?
Okay, so I'll use me as an example. I think when your confidence is lower, you almost, it's like innate to see lack in different areas of your life, and because there's nothing that pushes you to want to see a greater possibility. You may have the ideas, so you might be you can have low confidence but still have the idea, like, I'd love to do this thing and I'd love to do that thing, but if you don't work on your confidence, you won't push to actually execute that said thing. So that would be like the first part. I know that even where I felt like I was developing so much more confidence when it came to my relationships, when it came to my business, that was where all of a sudden, especially with the Broken Heels work, when it came down to like servicing women and actually saying, you know what, I'm going to offer you this course or this program, but I want to charge you. I was totally unable to come up with the price that I wanted to charge, because I had all these like limiting beliefs, like, oh, I'm working with Black women. Well, statistics say that this is their, you know, the net worth for our community. Or these women have also maybe gone through toxic relationships, so again, their income might be low, or all of these little things that were saying to me, well, I shouldn't really charge these people. Or you're trying to do passion work, purposeful work, so you shouldn't charge these people. And all of that was like continuing to nick away at my like self-esteem and make me feel like an imposter in that world, until I actually started to charge. And then by charging and someone saying, yes, I'll pay this, you begin to build that confidence. And that also builds your confidence as the expert in that field. When you start to get the people paying for things, that exchange makes you feel like I'm worth this and I'm in alignment. This is the thing I should be doing, or, you know? But it never fails, like when I work with women, and if they're in a place where they're feeling stuck or they're feeling in a rut, the mindset is that they can't do something, they can't achieve something, they can't ask for more. And a lot of the work is centered around shifting that mindset to you can receive more, you can ask, you are worth more. But they have to have the willingness to change their perception.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Honestly, you touched on so many important points. And it goes back to what I always say, it's your money mindset, like how you think about money. And you're even taking it onto a more deeper level because that's what you do. So you can actually see the correlation between, you know, low self-worth or low self-esteem and the lack of, or the inability to complete tasks or to actually go for something, right? But I love that you touched on the whole pricing thing, and because it's a real thing, it's real what people struggle with this. I'm telling clients all the time, like, you know, you have to increase your prices, or you know, you have to go from a place at least that minimum of what you need, right? Like, like, what do you need? So I always go through, okay, what do you need? Like, so that you're clear on that. And then when you're clear on that, you have to be at least taking care of you. At a bare minimum, right? But I also love what you talked about, envisioning the life that you want. So you talked about it mostly in time, right? So time was very important to you.
Time is like a huge thing for me. I never realized how much it's like I don't want anyone to control how my day looks except me. And so I want to know how many people I'm going to talk to today, how much, if I decide that I can't do work today because I need to help my mom with something or help myself with something, I need to be able to do that without feeling like I have to answer to someone. So that is super important to me. Other people may not need that and may actually say, and I think this is another part of the conversation that I think is needed, is like, not everyone can be an entrepreneur. You know? Everybody thinks, and social media has you out here thinking we all should be like entrepreneurs, making six figures. It's not for everyone, and you have to know yourself. Some people require the structure. Some people require going into an office with someone, you know, that has an expectation of them being there 9 to 5, and they do this work, and then they leave at 5, and work is done. I can say straight up, I'm probably 70% of the time thinking about work, like thinking about projects and ideas and stuff, because that's just how I'm built. But I also know that there's 25% of the time I want to turn it off too, and I want to choose when I turn it off. Absolutely. And that's the thing too. I'm glad that you talked about that, because it's true. Everyone can't be an entrepreneur, because when you see companies and you're scaling and they're growing, they actually do need employees. So it's perfectly fine to be an employee and to have fulfillment as an employee. So even though I may speak with a lot of entrepreneurs, and you know, I have a lot of entrepreneurial clients, I also have a lot of professionals and a lot of individuals who work in you know, salaried positions or executive positions that find a lot of fulfillment in that, and that's okay. Like it's more about enjoying and creating the life that you want, right? And also, like, not all of our passions need to turn into a business too. And that's the thing too, is because sometimes your passion turns into a business and then you lose that passion. And so it's okay to just keep things as your hobby. Absolutely. You know, and but I mean, social media kind of pushes you to make money through everything, and I think people have to be just really spend time with the self-awareness. Just in reference to the question you asked, like the work that I'm doing, it's about knowing yourself.
Yes.
And letting go of ideas and limiting beliefs of things you think you should be doing. And when you can clear up a lot of that, then you really know like what's meant for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. And some other limiting beliefs that also exist, and I think that we were talking a little bit about it earlier, is that you have to work hard
Yeah.
to make money,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I will tell you, I'm the first one who struggles with that. Like
Okay.
I always feel like I have to be
Doing
something. Like it's like I feel it's almost like, and I've been working on it.
Yeah.
So it nowhere near as bad as I was,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like there's a guilt, like you have to be doing for the money that you're earning. So you have to constantly be doing, right? So that's something that I've worked on. Have you seen that show up in your life at all?
All the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I think it's definitely a Black people problem.
Yeah.
It's a Black woman's problem.
Yeah.
We can blame slavery as we blame slavery for a lot of other things too, but like it's definitely a passed down generational behavior. And you hit the nail right on the head in regards to guilt. I think that we see more and we desire more, but we also, it's ingrained in us to believe that we can only earn through like our labor. And so like, how do we undo that? You know, like I'm still trying to figure out how to undo it too. How do we undo? And then we don't even have to go back as far as slavery. Look at your parents.
Yes.
Just look at, like I think about, like I kind of feel distressed when I think about like, man, my parents worked in, you know, general labor, blue collar jobs for 40 years, you know, every single day, shift work and overtime and no flexibility and freedom, to be able to then buy a house.
Yeah.
And that was like the goal, just buy a house, and they didn't travel and they didn't do anything. And then we grew up with that mentality that you have to work that hard to have basic necessities.
Yes.
And so we are, this generation, our generation is, you know, we're privileged to be able to get to travel and to explore different luxuries, but we still have that mindset that we have to push, and our money should only be through our labor.
Yeah, like hustle culture. Grinding, like all of those things. So like think about it for me, when I speak to people now, and the concept of investing and just like allowing your money to just work.
It doesn't make sense.
If you have a hustle mindset, a grinding mindset, it's like, how can I can just the money will just grow, like it will just increase, like that's how you let your investments work for you, whether it's in you know, if it's in the markets or if it's in real estate or whatnot. You can actually put your money to work so that you're not working as hard.
It's a hard, again, that's exactly like, we're having this conversation as I'm in this shift, because I'm even in a place where I have a great friend who he does tons of real estate, wholesales, and he's all about your money needs to work for you. And I told him that I was buying a property.
Yes.
And he lives in the States, so he heard the price in Canada and the amount I'd have to put down. And he's like, so why are you buying this property?
Yeah.
And I was like, because I want to have the property, appreciation, da-da-da. And his thoughts are like, well, you could take that money and make more money if you buy like 5 of these things in the States. Like he's referencing like buying into trailer park homes, and you'll get this cash flow.
Yeah.
Essentially it's about cash flow and what's going to come in monthly.
Yeah.
And but everything that I was taught was just save your money, and then buy a house. Exactly. And then that house is your big asset. Yeah. And you're good.
Yes.
But he's like, well, you can buy a house and live in for much cheaper here, or you can also take the money and buy a few properties, Airbnb, cash flow, all these things. So that started to make me think, oh, there's other ways that I can bring in a monthly income that don't require me to sacrifice a lot of time and energy working with people.
Right.
That in itself is like, what? How? Like, I don't, no one's taught me how to do that. I don't even know how that looks.
Yes.
Even thinking about getting a house and Airbnb, it sounds like so much work, but it really isn't. It isn't.
No.
And so learning to shift to that idea that you can bring in a steady income that could actually replace this income you're used to receiving from a job, to take care of yourself.
Right.
That it's foreign to us because, again, it's about our labor and our work and our worth.
Yes.
That is something that comes up a lot when I'm working with more like us as Black women, is that our worth is tied to the work that we put out.
Yes.
And so, again, that's another thing that we have to begin to shift our mindset around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like we're worthy and we're whole just as, but we got to let go of this idea that we have to produce something, to be seen as worthy. Yeah.
And you've said, like, I'm listening to everything that you're saying, and you were talking about the real estate, and I know that you've gotten into the real estate markets now, and you're now, investing and doing all these amazing things. But one of the key things that I heard, which congratulations, by the way, because that's huge.
Yeah.
But one of the key things that I heard you say is that you surround yourself with people who talk.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I always say how important it is to have like-minded individuals around you to actually say, to say what they're doing. There's a lot, I will say there's a lot of, like, secrecy within the community.
I know. Can I be honest with you, too? Is that I love my friends, my closest friends, but my reality is that in my core circles, we don't share as much in regards to these things. And you grow up with people, and, as you grow up and you ebb and flow through life, you try to share little things, but then everybody starts to build out their own families. And so, of course, they're naturally going to do what they need to do, and maybe we just celebrate successes.
Yes.
But it is hard to come by where someone will say, this is what I did and this is how I did it. And so I do think as entrepreneurs, we are at a little bit of an advantage because we begin to gravitate to other entrepreneurs and put ourselves in mastermind circles or meet people that can teach us how to do things. So yeah, I do have like 2 or 3 men in my life, to be honest. I actually don't have a woman other than yourself in my life who can guide with that, but men in my life who have helped guide when it comes to real estate or investing. And then what I'm looking for, actually, was my goal for this year, is to surround myself with some female entrepreneurs that I can lean on when it comes to, like, just the business building.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's so important. Like, you do it's so important to have people that look like you and sound like you, and that representation where you can say, okay, this person has built it, they've done exactly what I want to do, and they've followed this blueprint, so now I can kind of figure it out. It's important. So information sharing is huge, right? And I really am trying to break that secrecy, and that's why even these discussions and putting them out there for others to see, like, hey, there's other individuals who are just like you in the city that are still that are making it and that are going for what they believe in, that they are fulfilling their dreams, like because that secrecy has to be broken so that people can be aware that it's not something that is only happening in the States or happening over there. It's happening right here. Yeah, here as well. So thank you so much for sharing on everything. Like, I'm gonna be closing up, but I did want to just touch on, like, I know you're big on affirmations. Yeah. And what I love here is you've written on your actual your window here, and you have a beautiful and amazing view, and you've written out your affirmations, like, I am here only to be truly helpful. Right? I am here to represent him who sent me. Like, these are amazing.
That's from A Course in Miracles.
Really?
Yeah. A Course in Miracles. Is it It's a huge text. It's almost like a Bible text. I know exactly. Or an easier reference book would be A Return to Love by Marian Wilson. So I feel I guess if I wanted to say like sort of like a wrap up thing was that I do highly believe in serving and giving, and I think when you're giving, you will receive abundantly.
Absolutely.
And when we talked about working hard and to try to receive versus just being in alignment and you'll receive more.
Exactly.
That's kind of the biggest thing I would say I've been learning through the pandemic is that the more I've been giving and willing to support and help is I would receive tenfold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's in wealth and in love.
In wealth and love in every aspect of your life. I think that exactly what you said, alignment, purpose.
It sounds so woo sometimes, but like
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's just what it is. Like I can't really get around it, right? Like your destiny has to be purpose aligned, right? So I love that you even touched on that because what I'm hearing, right? And we are wrapping up, but we will just keep talking forever. It will never end. Yeah. But you're doing the spiritual work. Yeah. The spiritual work, you can't get around it. It has to be done. Yeah. And just congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
I'm so super proud of you.
Thank you.
Happy for you and can't wait to see the rest of 2022. Yeah.
Me too. Vice versa.
All right. Okay, thanks. Thank you everyone for watching and tune in next time for Cash Convos with Laideen.